Sarah, hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Can't complain. It's what, hump day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's how has the week been for you?
Pretty good. It's just a same old week, just training, taking care of my son, running errands, kind of typical stuff.
The usual. What kind of point are we at in training camp right now? Is it pretty intense? Still kind of chill? Where are we at?
No, it's still more chill. It's more focused on what techniques that I want to do. So it's a little more technical work, a little more drilling, and more cardio based stuff. As I get closer to the fight, it'll be more intense training, shorter, more intense goes, things like that.
All right, very cool, very exciting. Well, I want to say thanks so much for taking the time. I've wanted to talk to you for years, and I feel like this is a great point because I got to congratulate you on the Wrestling Hall of Fame. I mean, we knew it was a matter of time, but that is awesome to see. Like, how exciting for you was that?
I was really honored. It was a really awesome, like the entire like presentation event, like they really like knocked it out of the park. They did a great job with it. So I think all of us felt really special and they honored us correctly.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, was that kind of something that, I mean, surprised you? I don't really know how it works in terms of if it's like a voting system or if you need to wait like a certain amount of time. Cause like the NFL, I know they wait like 5 years until people can be eligible. But like for you, what was like the process like, I guess? Do they surprise you? You tell me.
No, they told me it was 100% a surprise. Like I never had really even thought of it. I think that I get so focused on the things that I'm doing now, like with MMA or whatever. I'm very future oriented, so I just wasn't even thinking back to my career in wrestling, and so it was 100% a surprise, but like a really really awesome, amazing surprise.
Yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing, right? Is when you're still in the middle of your career and still actively competing. I'm sure it's hard to kind of look back and enjoy maybe the journey to get there sometimes.
Yeah, I think that if you do that, if you look back too much and what you did do, I think sometimes that can kind of make you a little more complacent. You'll feel like a little more satisfied, which I still think it's good to do more than I do it, because you forget all the things that you've done. But I'm a lot more future oriented, so I'm always like, as soon as I reach a goal, I'm like, okay, what's my next goal? Okay, what's my next goal? Like, I don't know, it just kind of makes me feel excitement for life. So but it was when I was going through so they let us know and I had to go through like tons of memories, like pictures, videos, all the memorabilia of like like 15, 16 years of wrestling, and I was like, oh wow, like so many
Overwhelming.
awesome. Yeah, yeah, so it was like really awesome.
Yeah, that is definitely a very cool thing, and not a spot a lot of people get to be in. So a great accomplishment, for you and your career. So I want to applaud you
Thank you.
again for that. And also, Sarah, I got to talk about another experience you had recently. What you did, stand-up comedy for the first time, right? I mean, how was this? I heard that you were very good, and I was like, oh, that's great. Like, not that I don't think you'd be funny or good at it, but I was like, oh, that's great that Sarah was a standout among the people I talked to.
So I appreciate you say good at it, but like good at it probably for a fighter.
Okay.
So I appreciate whoever told you that. I didn't want to do it at first because I was like, well, like the really obvious thing is like I'm not a comedian, so getting up and trying. So I've done a lot of like public speaking, and I've done theater, but this is like really really different because I'm not a writer, so I'm not
Mm.
writing the content. I'm memorizing it. It's a lot different to get up there and try to make people laugh. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm only like a medium funny person at best. I'm not like, I'm not like, you know, making my way around parties and entertaining everybody. That's just not, I think we all know I'm only like, okay, funny. So,
Hey,
but
sometimes that's all you need.
yeah, so I worked really hard and had some help from a few of my comedian friends, including Adam Hunter, and they really helped me a lot in taking the content that I had and like and helping the punchlines and helping the way I did it, like just how they go through their process. and they just sped it up with me tremendously because theirs is like honed over years and they've done it in front of like tons of people. So mine was like, really, I'm going out there. It's a shot in the dark, whether or not it's like funny or not. But it was a really cool experience. Like it was, I can't deny that.
Yeah, I could imagine. And I'm assuming that it was kind of a thing Adam kind of, wanted you to get into, pushed you towards a little bit.
Yeah. So he asked me, and at first I was like, because I'm not a comedian, like you should do this person. You should, like kind of steering him towards other people. And then finally I realized myself, I was like, this scares the crap out of me. I'm going to do it, just because, I mean, like, we have like one life. Even if I go up there and bomb, like, I don't know, you only get so many shots to be, just take chances like that when they're offered. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take it. And immediately I just started working my butt off to like, I was like, I don't want to suck at it.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I got to at least be like decent.
That's fantastic. So with that in mind, Sarah, like, what would you say was more nerve-wracking or maybe scary between stand-up comedy, first UFC title shot, and the Olympics?
Hands down, easily the Olympics.
Okay.
Like really, the whole process is terrifying. Like, and it wasn't just my age or like, if I did it right now, doesn't matter how much experience I have under my belt. Like I felt like a week after the Olympic trials, I felt like, oh man, like, wow, I can't believe it. I made it. I'm an Olympian. Like, this is just like, I felt that like really all the good feelings. And then after that week, I still had like several months to train and get ready. I felt nothing but like the world on my shoulders. It was like, holy crap. It was just terrifying, like, and the whole process is so huge, like, and then, the biggest thing is, most likely, with most people who go to the Olympics, that is your only chance ever.
Right.
So I know in milliseconds, the decisions that I make in that time, I'll have to live with the rest of my life. There's no do-overs. There's no, so like, that's a lot of freaking pressure.
Yeah.
Very high. Like I'm pretty hard on myself and I have a lot of high expectations. And so that just compounded it. If I was like, man, I'm just happy to be here, I probably would have, but I'm like, you must win everything. You have to be perfect. And so I was like a slave driver for like that whole freaking, like, I was just, relentless on myself the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. That definitely makes sense. And I mean, so much more time goes into that opportunity, like you said, than as opposed to the other two things I mentioned. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
The UFC title, like it is very, very, it's very comparable, but man, I don't know what it is about the Olympics, but it's just different. I don't know if anything, I mean, okay, so there's probably things that are worse than that. Like if you are going out of the front lines of military, I'm 100% certain, when your life is on the line, it is definitely worse. But as far as like non-lethal things, it's pretty up there with pressure.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a safe bet to say. So, but as for more recent things, Sarah, also want to talk about, your most recent win against Karol Rosa, kind of one of the newcomers in the division. And you showed her that the old guard, I guess, if you will, still sticking around, doing very well. Great performance by you. I mean, just how how impressed were you with your own performance? Like, were you happy with it and all that? Obviously got the job done very well. She came on stronger a little late because she had to, right? You were beating her pretty convincingly the first 2 rounds, but just what'd you make of your performance looking back on it now?
I think there are obviously, like, I look at every performance, like there's things that I could do better, things I can grow on. I'm really happy with myself because things that I had previously, like I've been working on certain things for 5 or 6 years in the room. And when I go out and perform, I just didn't feel like it was just really representative of like what I can do and what I'm capable of. And not to be like too hard on myself, I had some injuries that I was dealing with for like a long time that it held me back in my fights. Like it definitely altered it. And I tried to push through it, and all of us do. All of us are injured. So it's not like I'm making excuses, but it definitely changed how much I could train, the ways I could train, and ultimately my performance. And now that I have those injuries, like pretty much squared away and I'm really healthy. I'm displaying what healthy Sara McMann looks like. And so I want to improve upon that performance. I think I can do even better. So I'm really excited every single time we get back out there.
Yeah, and it's always exciting to see you do it. So, and it was funny too, because you kind of skipped over the pandemic era a little bit of like no crowds. This was a smaller show for you. So, was that kind of weird experience, at least the Apex for the first time?
No, I didn't fight in the Apex.
Oh, it wasn't? Am I
No.
misremembering?
Yeah, I've never fought in the Apex.
Oh,
It's
okay.
really had had 3 different fights scheduled that my opponents got injured. Like
Right.
during I fought at the very end of 2020, but I had opponents to fight, but man, it just did not work out. So
Oh, that's right. It was the Columbus one. That's right. Okay. All right. So, yeah, you completely skipped it then.
I was kind of sad because I would love to fight in the Apex because a smaller cage favors a grappler.
That is true. And what do you think about the idea of like being able to hear both corners better? You know, that's something everyone always talked about in the beginning, at least.
I kind of would like the crowd. I
Yeah.
think it's a little because there's some moments that you're kind of like my first fight against Sheila Gaff. I I was very hyper aware of everything because it was my first UFC fight. It was like just a really big fight, and I must have taken her down over by her corner because all I could hear, which what I assumed to be German, I don't
Right.
know. I know she's German, but her coach was, and I'm like, oh my God, this is the most distracting thing, hearing her coach yelling and coaching her. And I'm like, I don't know what he's telling her to
Yeah.
do. So I had to like refocus myself and kind of try to block it out. So I
That's
think that
funny.
I would love to fight in the Apex. It would probably be more distracting.
And plus the commentary you can hear better. Not, I don't know if you
Well,
can hear that regularly, but yeah.
I've heard her say, "Oh, this person, wants to win the round," and they're later like, "I heard DC say that," and so that's what I. I was like, maybe that would help. I'd be like, What's that last thing you said?"
Right. Yeah.
Because you could probably talk right.
Yeah. Such a
My
unique
right.
dynamic. Super fun, super unique for sure. But you don't have to worry about that again with this next one, right? San Diego this time with Aspen Ladd, another fellow grappler you could say, even though she hasn't been showing it off too much in her last 2 fights, and didn't work out for her. But what do you make of this one, Sarah? How excited are you for this matchup? I mean, she's up there in the rankings, even despite the losses, but should be an interesting one on paper, I think.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really good fight. I think if I had my choice, I always prefer grapplers. I think I just like it in that area. And then I know that they prefer it in that area too. So it's much more likely to go there. And so I'm a little bit more excited to go against grapplers than I am strikers who will do what they can to keep it from going there. So it's nice to have like more of someone who's like willing to engage, because when they just kind of hold you and lock you down and kind of hope for a stand up, it makes for it's harder to really break the fight open. But if you have somebody else who's like attacking from different positions, like it gives you more opportunity as well.
Right,
So
right.
I'm happy about the matchup.
Yeah, should be a good one. And I know it's a little bit kind of old news now, but I want to get your thoughts on it because it was a very interesting topic at the time. And I asked plenty of fighters who were kind of in similar dynamics, but I'm sure you know where I'm going. The kind of dating a fighter and coach aspect. And, they got both kind of some flack in the Norma Dumont fight for maybe being too aggressive or whatever. I'm just curious, what your thoughts are on, that whole dynamic and situation that went down with them.
Oh, with Aspen and her coach?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that it's really hard to tell anything about any relationship from the outside, because I've seen online people posting the most great, amazing, wonderful photos. And then in real life, like they break up and you're like, what? They had like the perfect life. And, or you see just like a little snippet and I don't know, you just don't know what Aspen Ladd needs to hear in order to get her going. Me personally, I know that that's like that coaching style. It wouldn't be my preference. But I'm just a different person. So, and I think some fighters even need to be like slapped, I mean, I would only need to be slapped if I was like a zombie out there and half dead. I mean, it would be dire circumstances for somebody to slap me, and they better get out of the cage. They better do it right before they get cage, like, because it would be bad, you know. But so I can't say to that, like, but I will say this, being something like, so my husband helps with my jiu-jitsu tremendously, you know, and he is one of my coaches, but he really isn't, you know, like I take a lot from his jiu-jitsu, and he helps me a lot, but it's not really like the coach athlete hierarchy like some other coaches. But I can say it can be really difficult to separate the two, you know, like, and just the same thing as like a child and a parent that's coaching, you know, like it's hard to like leave stuff in the gym or leave personal life at home and not bring it in the gym. So that's not easy to do. And so I don't know, like I don't envy it. I'm glad that like I have other coaches and they make a lot of my decisions. And then like my stuff with Chad is like, it's a lot more bonus stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Because middle of camp, like I can be so rotten. Oh my God. Like I'm cutting weight. I got pressure on me. I have people shark tanking me, and I'm like tired, and you know, like I have to win all the rounds and everything and stuff like that. So, I mean, who am I going to take my frustration out on? You know, it's probably not going to be my nice teammates who are helping me. It's, you know, the guy who
is always there.
Yeah. Like, God dang it. You know, and then I'm like, later, I'm always like, sorry.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, it's not even a camp if Sara doesn't flake out at least one time. So, but I always apologize, and I'm like, you were right. I was trying to do that. I just couldn't. So like, but yeah, I mean, there's some that are unhealthy and there's some that are healthy, and man, I can't tell on the outside. I don't know either of them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, everybody's different. That's kind of what it boils down to, I would say. Every relationship, all that kind of thing. And what you're pretty much telling us, Sara, is you'd be the one slapping Chad in the corner, not the other way around.
I saw like a meme that was like, if you know, like if Sara's ever losing a fight in the third round, she just needs Chad to be like, "Hey, Sara, calm down." I'd be like, "I am calm." You know, that will like light fire. Like,
all it takes.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, I mean,
like, healed. He's so like, he's such a, you know, nothing really ruffles his feathers. It takes so much to push him off the deep end. But me, I'm like, I'm so much more volatile.
Good balance to have, right? Balance it out.
And that, you know, like, and so he mellows me out a lot.
Oh, that's great to have that for sure. And just, you know, as for kind of this whole saga getting to this fight, Sara, you know, landed Aspen Ladd, obviously, but there was something going on with Germaine de Randamie, right? It seemed like a little bit of a back and forth you guys had, and she was not retired. What's going on from your perspective?
So I called her out from after my fight, and I don't feel like I was like disrespectful at all. Like I was calling her out because I just was asking to fight her. Like she's one of the top ranked girls. And I even called her out. I was like, hey man, she's a Muay Thai world champ. She's a former UFC champ. Like I want to fight the best. I don't have forever to fight. I want the top people. And I kept getting people who are below my ranking or just right at my ranking. And I'm like, man, I can't improve if I'm only fighting people close to that. Like I want the higher ranked girls. So really, if she had been lower ranked, I just wouldn't have even paid attention to her. But I actually asked another fighter, because I was like, hey, you know, like, do you know anything about her? And she's like, yeah, from what I understand, she's retired. So I wasn't like just making things up. I was like, okay, dang, if she's retired, that makes sense why I haven't heard anything. And so I was like, oh, well, you know, now I have this fight, because people were asking, they're like, hey, when are you going to fight Germaine? Hey, when is that going to happen or whatever? And so I was like, well, I would, you know, but I just assumed, like, I left it up to like Mick and them. So when I posted that, I posted it like not in a way to like, you know, BS or like provoke, you know, I was saying it because I genuinely believed that. So to get her response, you know, it was like, for me, it's like, you know, don't talk to me like I'm one of these little girls. I'm not. I'm a grown woman. I know, you know, that I called you out. You can say, no, I don't want to fight you, or yes, I'll fight you. But don't now come and, talk all big and bad whenever, I said something and I said it was incorrect. And I was like, hey, I even posted to her. I was like, look, nobody's more happy than me that you're not retired. So, like, but I didn't speak. I wasn't like trying to start whatever drama. I have an entire career where I'm not starting drama. So I think that my past is like really, I should have a little bit more leeway when it comes to stuff like that. But I was just, that's what I thought. And I wasn't the only person who thought that. So
Yeah, I mean, we'd all kind of been wondering for a while, especially off of a great submission win over the now champion, Pena. So it's like, where'd she go? And she's kind of taken time before between fights. So I think definitely a fair thought from you, because I was thinking that as well.
I think she honestly is just sitting around waiting while we all fight each other. And then she just wants to step in and fight Pena. And I don't think they should do that. I don't think that that's right. Like, no, you can fight some of us. And she said she would fight me. So I guess she can, put her money where her mouth is. So
yeah, we'll see what happens after this one. So fingers crossed that she'll be ready by then, but who knows? So, it would be a great opponent though. And you've had so many in your career, Sara. So I want to give you a tough question here, but when it comes to all the opponents that you've had, is there somebody that stands out as the toughest so far?
Oh man. Let's see. Toughest in terms like fighting them was like, you have to be specific when it comes to
yeah, it could be, I mean, you could look at it right from as the fight itself or the preparation for the fight, but I guess just overall kind of the challenge.
I think one of the strongest people I've ever fought would be Amanda Nunes. Like that, like most people I take down and I keep them down, and she popped right back up. So that was definitely like, it took an enormous amount of energy to get her down too. So that was really tough. But, also Misha Tate, I broke her orbital and she still fought. Like, that's pretty tough, like that's so got to give, tip of the hat to that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you mentioned the Misha Tate fight, because in my opinion, and I try to express as much as I can, because I think it's one of the most underrated fights of all time. Like, that was an amazing fight, Sara. And so I feel like people don't talk about it enough.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess like, I don't know. I don't look back. So right. I don't even look at stuff too. So I don't even know what people are or aren't talking about, but it was a good fight. And if she ever comes up to 35 and, wants to fight again, I think it'll be a great fight again. So
yeah, I won't be saying no to that one for sure. But you mentioned Nunes as well. So I got to ask, since you have fought both of, her and Pena, who are going to get ready to run it back here. What is that? At the end of next month. Do you have a prediction and how you think it's going to go? I know that you were caught off guard by the first one, like all of us, but how do you see it going this time?
So I'm going to venture. So I'd say I would have probably before said Nunes. I would have said that. Not before the fight, before Amanda, stopped training with her team. Because I know from experience, switching teams and switching coaches, that can kind of mess you up for a little bit. That sometimes they want to rejuvenate it, but man, it takes a long time for those things to like, I think that it makes hiccups in your game before it makes improvements. So I don't think if she had stayed with ATT and they just gotten her on track, and that I would have probably picked her. But since I heard she left, I'm actually like more leaning towards Pena.
Yeah, that's definitely kind of the biggest story post the first fight, right? I mean, a big change, for somebody who has been with them for so long and was so great there. I mean, we'll see how it goes, I guess, right?
Yeah. And sometimes too, like the subtle underlying message is her team made a mistake and it cost her the championship. And I think that when you view things like that, you don't look in the mirror and take accountability for what you did or didn't do that puts you in that situation. And it could be, and she knows the factors more than me. She knows herself, but you can't blame anybody else. Like you have to look at yourself and what you could have done differently, because you're the only one out there in the cage. And if you think that something isn't sufficient, isn't enough, it still is up to you to to fix that. It's your coaches are not your babysitters, you know? So I don't know. I think changing camps sometimes is like the wrong solution.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like we said, a big thing to change, especially for someone like her, and a camp like
But
ATT as well.
I will like add one thing. If she had been putting up with like something that was a bad
Mm,
situation and it took her losing to like acknowledge that, then I stand corrected. I just don't know anything about the situation. So if it was like this was just the nail in the coffin, then maybe I don't know. Then maybe it was the right move and maybe she will perform better. I'm just outside of the situation.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm sure she'll probably get asked about it as fight week approaches. That's for sure. So, sure, we'll hear more then. But I want to ask also about another past opponent of yours, Sarah Ketlen Vieira, who's doing very well, and specifically if you saw her last fight with Holly Holm, which was very controversial in terms of the result. Not sure who you had winning that one, but kind of the big thing that came out of it was: is it time for open scoring in the UFC? We see it in Invicta right now. How do you feel about that whole idea? And did you think that she was the rightful winner of that fight?
so I love the idea of open scoring and I know that they think that that would make the person who has won the first two rounds complacent, but I truly believe it'll make the person who lost the first two rounds like a person on fire. Like I think that you'll see more 10-8 rounds in the third or people going for it. You'll see like more action because someone's like, man, if I don't, they know
Right.
they have to throw the win. And that's going to be 5 extremely action packed minutes. So I'm totally for open scoring. And if you split rounds, ooh, that third round is going to be amazing as well. So I think that I think it's a good thing. But different fighters can take it different ways, and I don't know. Now, also, if I'm just being perfectly honest, and I like Holly and I like Ketlen. I don't like have any. I fought Ketlen, and she's like really nice and stuff like that. So sorry, I have a kitten
All
that
good.
is.
I saw him in the background. Very cute.
But they're deciding to play with things right beside me. So to be truthful, when I saw the decision, I thought Holly had done enough to pull it out. But I do see why it was a split decision. But I thought, and that's the tough thing about split decisions is that means that it really could have gone either way. It was a very close fight. I just thought Holly had done enough, but I'm also not a judge. So I just know who would I rather have been in that fight. And I think, when the fight ended, I thought, I would rather have been Holly doing the things that she did. Even though I agree 100%, Ketlen was landing the harder shots. But, she was dominating against the cage and she had strikes against the cage. And so it's hard to be controlled and dominated for such a long period of time. And, even the choke that she got, like Holly escaped it. Because Ketlen she got a little bit too, she made mistakes, which we all make mistakes, but it was Holly's offense that even put her in that position to get it. So it was like, I think Holly was very offensive, but very, very close fight.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing for me too, is like definitely not a robbery. That word gets thrown around way too much. And
Yeah.
when it comes to like the whole debate for open scoring, like, yes, it doesn't make the judges better. Like, we got to make that clear, right? It doesn't mean that we'll get better decisions, but it gives, the fighters the chance to know. Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you feel like, oh God, I'm winning the fight. And I've even seen some previous fights where it's like, you have these many rounds. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know why they're so sure. Like those are really close rounds. Like I would never want that. I would never want them to tell me you won a round so definitively whenever you don't know.
Right.
So
Yeah. I'll have to wait and see if that ever happens, but it's not looking good right now, according to the boss man. But you never know. So, just as for you still, Sarah, like mentioned it a little bit earlier, but 41 years young now and still killing it though. But are you looking at maybe a timetable for, how much longer you're going to fight? I'm sure you get asked about it a bit, but I gotta know.
honestly, like since I've been 36, I've been like, yeah, I'm just going to do it like just a couple more years and then I'm done. I've been thinking about it because I mean, actually, it's a completely normal question. Like as you get older, I'm like, you know, all I'm waiting for is my body to say, man, we really can't do this anymore. Like the preparation that's needed to go and actually compete well, I just can't do it. I just can't. Or if my desire is like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get, like I'll retire as soon as I feel either of those things. But as long as I'm like healthy and I want to go out there, then I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it just a couple more years. Every couple of years, I'm like, definitely just a couple more years. That is it. So I'm really bad at predicting my own life and what I'll feel and do. So
Yeah, I mean, it's like why not continue for as long as you physically can, like you're saying, right?
I know once I'm done too, like that is like I'm done and that's my athletic career. And so it's like I just really enjoy it. So I'm like, I want to enjoy it a little bit longer. And I know it's kind of really special. Like every fight could be my last fight. And that's like, well, I'm just going to bring the best and the absolute best that I possibly can to every single fight. And that might be my last. And I'll have to be happy with what I left out there. And so it's actually kind of enjoyable to fight like that.
Yeah, like a little bit of a good motivation boost, to do, like you said, as best as you can. So,
And I have less pressure.
yes.
I'm not 7. I'm not, in my peak. I'm 41. I'm like, how are you guys losing to me? Like,
Embarrassing.
I mean, I expect me to win. And the people I train with are like, man, if we had to go through this camp with you, you better win. But, you know, everyone else, like, I feel like there's a lot less pressure on me. And like, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, the less pressure is always great. So, well, Sarah, I know you don't like to reflect very much, but as we get ready to wrap up here, I want to reflect a little bit up until this point in your career. Like, we talked about the Miesha Tate fight already, and yeah, I know that one was a loss, but do you have a favorite fight of your own? Like one that you always, if you do ever have that time to look back, you're like, oh man, that was a moment I love to think about that one.
So, I guess my first UFC fight would probably be up there. Like, it was just such a unique experience. The first time in the UFC, like, and I never thought I would get the octagon jitters and stuff like that. Like, but I totally did. It wasn't probably as crushing as other people because of having been in the Olympics and World Championships, but I was still surprised how much it was there. And, they put me against a girl who was 8-0, like very similar type of record as me and was a knockout girl. So I was like, I don't know. It was just a really euphoric feeling winning that first one. So.
Yeah, for sure. And would you say you were more nervous for that than the title fight, or were they pretty equal?
No, I was more nervous for the title fight. Okay. Just yeah, title fights are definitely a lot more nerve-wracking. It was just different. It was like, it was different. They're both a lot of nerves, and they're both like, yeah, but no, title fights are definitely more nerve-wracking.
Yes, fair enough. Certainly fair enough. But all right, Sarah. Well, I will leave you with one last thing here. A little bit of a fun one, between motherhood and fighting, do you have time for any other hobbies outside of MMA, or anything you're passionate about other than punching people in the face and taking care of the kids?
So I wouldn't say that like there's anything else like I'm super passionate about, because all my passions are kind of tied in with those two things. So I do really love jiu-jitsu. I do stuff in the gi, and so like that's a lot of fun for me in training. It's just a completely new puzzle to work on. But I also like hiking, but I do that with my family. So like California is like gorgeous, and there's just so many places to drive to within a couple hours. And so that's something I really love to do. And it's like the mountains, the beach, like Tahoe, like all around is just national forest. And so that's something that it's the kind of time that even when I have downtime, I'll go hiking. And it's like, I should be resting, but I just can't help it. It's like too amazing here.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're always seeing the great pictures you post of all the outdoorsy things. So you got it good out there.
Yeah.
But all right, Sarah, taking plenty of your time. I appreciate it so much. Sorry if I did keep you a little long, but like I said, you've been one of my favorites for, since you got into MMA, really been following your career for a good while. And it's been awesome to see it and exciting, to see you continue going on. Very much looking forward to the Aspen Ladd fight. Wishing you all the best of luck. And hopefully maybe Germaine can come back after that, but we'll wait and see. So I appreciate you taking time so much, Sarah. And just best of luck with everything going forward.
All right. I really appreciate it. Thanks.